Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another Indie Comics Talk. Tonight, we've got a special guest on. We've got David Andry, the writer of new Kickstarter comic, Dead Blood, but also all of these amazing stories back here, Resonant, End After End, and part of the Nightfall Double Feature, Denizens. Welcome in, David.
Hey, how's it going, Jeremy?
It's great. It's a new comic book day. Lots of new things out this week. You had two books last week?
I think it was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's hard
Time
to
is
track. Yes,
time is funny.
it is.
I know it was very recent that you just had two releases happen on the same day, End After End, and
Yeah, that was
Double
not
Feature.
planned and very strange, and the kind of eccentricities of the publishing world is that those things kind of lined up. It's really kind of
Yeah.
neat, and it was both basically the same place in each series. It was one issue past the halfway mark, so that was very cool. I've
Yeah.
never had two releases on the same day, and that was awesome. I was very excited.
Yeah. That was actually one thing. I wasn't sure how long Nightfall Double Feature was going to be going on, but I'm enjoying it as it happens.
Yeah, it's one more issue. It's 4 issues, but
Okay.
each of the stories has been 30 pages in each issue. So you're getting like basically an issue and a half. So 4 issues will be 120 pages of comics. So that's quite a bit.
Yeah.
So that schedule has been not monthly. It's been every 2 or 3 months. Kind of seems like those are coming out. So
yeah.
It's a lot to coordinate with so many creatives on one book.
Oh yeah. Reading just like the top of it, you're like, all right, we've got everybody on
everyone in the world.
It's great. It's a great team of people on it.
Yeah, it was fun. The idea was to take like Resonant and Plot, because Tim Daniel and I, wrote the one story in the double feature.
Mhm.
So we were trying to take the teams from those 2 books and do a little swap with the team from Autumnal. And so that was kind of what we were trying to do. It didn't work out with everyone's schedule, but we mostly kind of got there.
Yeah. No. Like I said, great team of people overall. So usually to start out interviews on the channel, first time that you're on here, I like to have you tell a little bit about yourself, how you got into reading comics, and then how you got into writing and creating comics.
Yeah, I started, I guess, I don't know, pretty early as far as reading comics. I was reading comics in 6th grade. I remember I went to a very small Catholic grade school, and so there's only like 28 kids in my class, and we had a new kid transfer in. He was from the Bay Area, San Jose, which was like, ooh, big city. And he would come to class with comic books, and he was reading at the time Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as it was out on, that's how old I am, as it was out on the newsstands, and
Yeah.
I flipped through it. I'm like, I never knew comics were like this, or could be like this, or were that like indie and violent and cool. If you go back to the original series, that stuff was pretty, violent for a 12-year-old to be reading. And that all it took was like flipping to that comic. And luckily, where I grew up, we had a really amazing comic shop called Comic Dreams, and the owner would just let us, as kids, me and my best friend Jim Lopes, would just hang out in there all the time. Like, we basically lived there over the summer, read through every comic we could get. And they had great comic collectors club meetings. So every month we'd have like a movie night, and you could buy like everything at 50% off. And so I would come with grocery bags and fill them up with back issues of like Amazing Spider-Man, Alpha Flight, New Mutants, and like just really went in deep. And then the 90s hit, and of course 90s was like amazing, where you started to get the Image explosion, the Image founders creating their own company. And I kind of loved, all of that stuff. That was, I mean, I was in high school at the time. It's just right up, high schoolers, jam. And so that's kind of where Dead Blood came from. We could talk about that later. But and then as far as like writing during that time, like right after high school, I was trying to make comics with a friend of mine, and he was an amazing artist. And we would go to shows and like show his portfolio, and I would enter a Wildstorm talent hunts, talent searches. And they would have stuff for writers, and they would say turn in like a 6-page script or something like that. And I did a bunch of those. I have some really nice rejection letters at the time. And then, got into college and just got busy and poor. And so kind of fell out of comics for about 10, 11 years. And then I would still go to Comic-Con in San Diego because I went to college in San Diego and my friends would come down. And a couple of years after I graduated, one of my very best friend who still lives down in LA, he was living down in LA at the time, and he was friends with Sina Grace, who was Robert Kirkman's editor on The Walking Dead Invincible. And this was right before the show, The Walking Dead show was going to launch. They wanted help to come run the booth because they were going to have Skybound was created right as that stuff was happening. So Robert Kirkman's imprint within Image.
Yeah.
And so I said, a free trip to San Diego Comic-Con. You're going to pay for my hotel. You're going to pay for my food. And all I have to do is work a booth. Hell yeah.
Sign me up.
Right. Who says no to that? And so because I was going to go work this booth, I had never read Walking Dead. I had never read Invincible. And I'm like, I would go to like Borders and comic shops and just buy all the Walking Dead Invincible trades and collections that I could buy, and read everything up to that point. And, talk about, a good like gateway drug to get back into comics.
Yeah.
Read like 2 of the best comics ever written. And I'm like, all right, I'm back. I'm thinking I'm back. I have a job. I have money. I can do this again.
Yeah.
And so just dove right back into comics. And then after working the cons for a couple of years and getting to know creators and meeting friends that also wanted to make comics, I started to build a little community. And Christopher Alvarez, who I do Dead Blood with, he worked at the comic shop that I started to go to here in Sacramento. And he's an amazing artist, and he had put together anthologies of his own. I'm like, well, let's do some stuff together, or can you help me like figure out how to make comics? And so I just started going from there.
Yeah, it's a fun journey there.
Yeah.
I'm over here like, a couple years back, I was like, let's see what this is all about, and start.
Yeah.
I mean, but it sounds like it was kind of the Turtles and Marvel and like things like that, the known names that brought you in originally, but it was things like Walking Dead, the indie comic side of things, that really brought you back and kept you in.
Yeah, and really it was and like those comics of the 90s, those Image comics were just so exciting and different. And they had different paper and different color.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to take someone who wasn't around during that time reading comics and let them know how different and exciting those things were. And it was just like nothing you were seeing on the shelves. And you can see like Marvel and DC tried to pivot and tried to become more like Image with their recostume designs, and everybody had big shoulder blades and pouches and
all so that many stuff. Pouches.
Yeah,
too many.
But it forced a titanic shift in comics themselves, just because how their sales were incredible, of course, but it was just also how exciting the comics were compared to what was coming out at that time.
What's interesting, you say that, the different paper and things, even back then, and now you see it on the shelves. Like anytime I pick up a Marvel comic, I'm like, is this gonna fall apart in my hand?
Yeah, yeah,
And I pick up something like, you know, something from Vault, and I'm
right.
like, this is quality. But also, I love that in this, it's almost like it's an old timey
That
feel a
was
little bit on the inside with the
yeah. They
double
chose to
feature.
do like a new style of newsprint
Yeah,
for that comic. One because it kind of fits the kind of throwback horror element, but
yeah,
also it takes up less space for a stapled comic. You know, a comic that's 60 something pages
okay,
is usually going to be perfect bound and
yeah,
have a glued back, but with that paper, you can easily do it the way they did it, and it has a great feel to it. And that was kind of one of the things about Vault when Vault launched is they had thicker cover stock. They had really great paper. Like people knew a Vault book when they picked it up. Like it smelled,
yeah.
it smelled different. As strange as that is, I
Nope.
love,
I get that.
yeah, they had a different smell, a different texture, and so like that always impressed me with Vault, even before I was a creator with Vault, was like, oh man, they're paying attention to every kind of step of the process.
Yeah, all the details
Yeah,
are definitely showing through on that. And the other thing is this is your first Kickstarter, right? With Deadblood?
right. Yeah, and I had self-published a bunch of comics, and me and Christopher had self-published stuff together.
Yeah.
And so we were just doing that. We were just he was drawing the pages, and then we paid Bruno Furlani to color them, and the colors came out just freaking amazing. And Michael Myers did the lettering, and so we paid all
Yeah.
of that stuff out of pocket. And then, I mean, I looked at it and I said, "This is like objectively, this looks good."
Yeah.
Like regardless of my writing in the story, like the art is amazing, the color is spectacular, it looks like a professional book. I'm like, ugh, I don't want to just sell this one or two issues like at conventions locally, which is what we
Right.
normally do, or maybe put it up on our web store and sell like 10. I'm like, let's just do Kickstarter as a pre-order system. I'm like, let's set a really low goal, and just so we can get the money to print before we print, instead of paying for it out of pocket and then printing,
Yeah,
and
chasing
and
it
maybe get
down.
like a little bit of that Kickstarter reach and have more people read our stuff than would read our stuff just locally here in like Sacramento, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it did. It's doing really well. I'm like that's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, for like you said, you're just trying to hit enough to print it, have some copies, be able to sell locally at
Right.
cons whenever you go places, but also hit that wider market a little bit too, and
Yeah.
beating your goal.
Yeah.
I think
We
this was
we
inspired. Oh, go
we
ahead.
hit our goal, I think, in less than 8 hours or 10
Yeah.
hours, something like that. Like we hit the goal the first day. And so that was amazing. Now everything else is just like gravy on top.
Yeah. Yeah, and Kickstarters have this weird, like, you're in the middle of it. It's like the dead zone.
Yes. Literally, like
Yeah.
nothing. One digital purchase, so that went up by $4. Nothing. Yeah. And so I'm glad we set the goal so low, so I don't have to stress during this time.
Yeah.
And really, if we make a couple extra bucks, all we're going to do is put it towards the next book, because Christopher's already drawing the next book, and we want to do way more Dead Blood, because it's so much fun. It's so much fun to do stuff like with your friends and not
Yeah.
have to like care about like of like, not that I've worked with all my editors have been amazing, but I don't have to worry about what the editor is going to say about it. I don't have to worry about is this marketable? Is this something that can
Right.
translate into television or something? This is we're just making fun comics for the love of comics, and
Just
it's basically transporting us back to the 90s. And if me and Christopher were creators during the 90s, this is the comic that we would do.
yeah, I definitely see the like the that almost stereotypical 90s image Marvel
Yes.
superhero kind of guy with the big gun and the pouches right
Oh
here.
yeah. Yeah, that was the goal. It's like, let's make it as fun as possible, and let's get it all the throwback images, and so we have so many plans for this story and the places it can go.
So just real quick for anybody who hadn't come across the Kickstarter yet, what is Dead Blood about?
So the main characters that people are seeing there, that's Cull and his ghost of a vestigial twin brother, Rip, and they are fighting the bad guys. And so it's a world like inhabited with necromancers and a lot of spirit magic, and they're just trying to right wrongs and fight the bad guys. And Cull was a famous all ball, which is like the future sport. He was an all ball player, and he was rich and famous, and just decided that he needed to give all that up and make a difference in the world. So yeah, he and his ghostly brother fight crime, fight bad guys.
Yeah. Buddy's reaching out to you here in the chat. We should talk stories someday.
Nice.
Yeah, the one thing I think when I was reading through it that stood out about this was there is not a single page that looks like a typical like paneled page that you
Right.
see in like Marvel, DC, even in a lot of indie comics. It's all things like this
Yes.
where nothing usual is happening, and it's so much fun. I can tell you guys had fun creating
Yes.
this.
Yeah, and that was the total idea. Because a lot of the stuff that Christopher and I have worked on has been like, indie like talky comics, just like, oh, there's emotions and there's feelings and stuff like that. And
Which
and
is
he's
good in its own way.
right, and I love that stuff. And he started kind of laying it out, and he's like, I don't know, man. I'm like, look, go flip through some old X Force, some old like New Mutants stuff. These guys not only like pushed all the mediums, they pushed layouts. Like arms would come out of panels. There would be small insert circular panels. I'm like, we need some of that in this book. And Christopher took that one note and absolutely just blew up these pages. And you've seen it. And they're like this. I mean, the page you're showing right now, one of the all-time great comic pages of all time. I mean,
love it. I love it.
Wild. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, I thought you would change stuff up a little bit, but this is like, rewriting the genre almost, how crazy he went on this stuff. And then Bruno picked it up and just sprinted with the colors, with all these strange textural backgrounds and stuff like that. So yeah, and what I love about these pages is Christopher did all this traditionally. So this is all pen on paper.
Dang.
So he's drawing these circles, he's making these panels all by hand. And the actual comic pages look spectacular if you ever get a chance to see him in real life. He didn't put any of them up on the Kickstarter because he knows I probably would have bought them all myself.
I mean, if he puts one up,
if he puts one up, you guys got to get to it before I do, because I will buy every single page from this book, because they all they're on big, like whatever the normal big Bristol pages are. I mean, they're huge, and just it's ridiculous. It looks so good. So yeah,
there's not like, sometimes you're reading a comic, you're like, yeah, this page is all right. It progresses the story. The story is the more important part on this page. I don't think there's a single page in this that I'm just like, it's all right. They're all like, what are you doing here? This is amazing.
Yeah, and it makes it so fun to read, but the action all reads without the words, right? So it really like loosens me up as a storyteller too, that I don't have to then describe what's supposed to be happening. You see that a lot in Marvel comics, is like, I'm going to get over there and I'm going to punch you in the face. They have to tell you what they're going to do, so the panels then make sense. I don't have to do any of that. Christopher,
the show don't tell.
That's right. I'm a firm believer in that. But it also lets me do things like on this page, having the bad guy have a soliloquy, right? Mm-hmm. That's 90s comics too. Like, people would bust into a room introduce themselves, say, tell them everybody who their name is and basically what their powers are and what they're going to do to them. And so you're going to have all these really fun, bad guy soliloquies and kind of melodramatic, over the top stuff. So yeah, there's going to be more of that in Dead Blood too. I'm really looking forward to getting into the meat of that.
Yeah, and like you said, these backgrounds and the colors that Bruno brought in are fantastic. I think when I put that review out, I said it reminded me of the Kirby Crackle and
Right.
like the fun things going on in the background there.
Yeah. Every page is great to look at in this book.
Yeah, it's just I'm pointing the wrong way. Yeah,
1.5.
Who are these guys?
Yeah,
I don't know. But yeah, no, the wraparound cover is so much fun.
Yeah,
it's just all a blast.
Yeah, then we got Adam Cahoon, who's soon to be everyone's favorite artist on The Nasty from Vault.
Yeah, fantastic book.
Yeah, dude's just so crazy talented, like in every single way. His art style can do that, and then also do super like cartoony stuff. So he did that cover, and then he has a 6-page backup story in the book as well that he, we kind of talked about it, and then he wrote it all out and illustrated it himself. Yeah, that's Cull back from his all ball days, which is kind of a combination of football, basketball, hockey, and tennis, whatever other sports I could think of. We kind of mashed them all together. Yeah.
Yeah. Adam's cover is really cool.
Yeah.
That black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just hilarious. And it's was it who was doing the writing on this one?
On the backup?
Yeah.
Adam did it. Adam did Adam did the writing, and me and him and Christopher kind of talked about all ball sports and kind of what we wanted to happen, and then he just ran off with it. And then Matt Harding did the color on that, and Micah Meyer also did the lettering on that story. So
cool.
Yeah. Cool.
14 days left on it.
Yeah.
I mean, we at least need one more backer on this, right?
Yeah, one more than stop.
Who wants to make it happen?
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, the thing is, it's fun, and it's, I think, well worth it. We put a lot into that little package. So yeah, we just want to keep making these fun little comics every year or so. Put another one out.
Yeah,
if we can. Yeah.
And you're just creating a lot of things right now. You got that going on. You got End After End and Nightfall Double Feature releasing from Vault. So how do you stay on top of writing all of this at the same time, or has this been all being created over time and it's just happened to release all together?
Yeah, this is all. I'm very kind of quick writer, and I'm pretty disciplined because I have a full-time job and I'm old and tired. So I have
not the old and tired part. Well, the tired probably, but not the old.
Yeah. I am. Yeah, I'm old. But so when I start writing, I'm going. And so with both of these, it was kind of the first 2-3 projects that Tim Daniel and I started working on together when we decided to be a writing partnership. End After End was the very first thing we talked about on our very first phone call. And so that happened 2.5-3 years ago. So, we started this stuff a long time ago and started to, for the first year of our partnership, we were just banking story, banking scripts, banking pitches. And so wanted to get a bunch of stuff together. And then once we felt like we had enough to start pitching out, then we started pitching out. And so whatever got picked up or whatever there was interest in, I would, we'd work on that. And so, yeah, End After End and Denizen have been done for a while. And End After End, we built that from scratch, me and him. And like Denizen, Tim had this stewing in his brain for a really long time. And he's super generous as a creator. He's like, here's what I have. What do you want to do with that? I'm like, okay, I want to do this, 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 and this. And so he's totally willing to let me get in there and mess around with something he's already put
Yeah.
tons of time and effort into. And if I change the story, he's like not pushing back against that. He's like, yeah, that's a
Like,
good idea.
let's see
Let's
where
do
this
that.
goes.
Right. And
What
so
happens here?
that's, man, I can't imagine someone being as generous as he is with his ideas and
Yeah.
his stories. And Denizen is extremely personal. We really, I kind of forced him maybe to dig into stuff that's happening to him in his real life, and we just mined the heck out of it. And we're like, both he and I think, come from the same place when we're creating stories, and we want them to be true and impactful and not real to life, because we always were writing horror or sci-fi or fantasy, but real, like a
Yeah.
real story with real emotion. And so, like, um hey, Bruce and Stephanie. uh
Welcome in.
so yeah, that, like, I really kind of raked him over the coals to get a lot of the meat of this story out. And we'll
Yeah.
do that to each other. There's it's forming a writing partnership is kind of like just a deeper form of a relationship, because you have to be totally open, and not just open and honest with things that happen, but how you feel about those things,
Yeah.
and not try to sugarcoat it and make yourself look good. You got to show, like, your weaknesses and your errors. And so, like, it creates a level of trust between the two of you. And so I think I absolutely love working with Tim. It's one of the most fulfilling and rewarding things I've done in my entire life. Um, and I can't imagine not working with him in the future.
Yeah. So I was like, when I saw this one come out, I was like, hold on, Tim's not on here. What's going on? I know this is something that, now, we've been talking, it's something that kind of was around before that
Yeah.
partnership even started up.
And this is
It's
like,
another friend.
and me and Christopher, Christopher's helping me with story on this too. This is,
Yeah.
if there was a co-writing, we would be co-writers on there. I think we're both credited as storytellers on there, because
Yeah.
he's adjusting and changing the story and adding stuff and making suggestions. And so, yeah,
Do you
it's
feel
kind of
like
me and Chris's little baby. It's like my affair that I'm having on Tim on the side.
is your side storyteller over here?
Yeah. So, but
Um,
me and Chris have been working together for 9 years now,
yeah.
almost, just doing our own thing. So that relationship just will continue forever too, hopefully.
Yeah. With that, you said, it's a little bit of like a back and forth. Do you feel like it's more into like the Marvel what is it? The Marvel method of creating comics in the
I
way that you
still,
put that together?
yeah, no, I still have to do a full script, because that's how my
Yeah.
brain works, and I can't visualize it without visualizing step by step. Like, some people write in scenes, and they want certain scenes to happen, and so they can write a scene from issue 4 and then come back to issue 3.
Oh,
And I
oh
have
no.
to work, like, yeah, I have to work
Yeah.
literally. That Those are people that outline really extensively, good outliners. I'm not a good outliner, so I have to do, like, A to B to C to D and just kind of work it all the way through. So for it to make sense in my brain, I have to do a full script. But I have that script to Christopher. He changes it all anyways.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm adding 2 panels here. I'm like, fine, whatever. You don't have to tell me. He's like, I'm turning this into a 2-page spread. I'm like, turn it all into a 2-page spread. I don't care.
No panels. It's
Yes,
all
it's all
full page
spread.
spreads.
Yes, which I'm totally for. I love art. So, yeah.
I just saw that in a comic recently, by the Horns, and I loved it. It was just straight up all full page things. I was
Yeah.
like, this is awesome. Why
They
don't we
have
see this more? It's just beautiful
there's an
art.
issue. Yeah, there's an issue of Invincible where he's fighting Dinosaurus, which is the best name for a dinosaur villain ever.
Yes.
He's where Invincible's fighting Dinosaurus for the entire issue, and each page is a full page spread or a double page spread. There's no panels or anything in it. It's an amazing issue.
Yeah. I love when it's like it's not the standard.
Yeah.
The standard works. Like
Right.
it does great things, in these other books that you've got, but then something about just taking a break from that and seeing a comic just go wild. is
Yeah,
so much fun.
it is. And I think, and I thought about that a lot. There has to be this like, not a fear of failure, right? You get, if you're putting something different out into the world, there's a good chance people aren't going to like it. So you just got to put that stuff in your back pocket and keep on going,
Yeah.
and not be afraid for this to be a giant turd, you know? And it's like, hey, we're going to try something different. You might not like it, but it's you're going to remember it. And so I think that's kind of where Dead Blood came from too. It's like we didn't care what anyone else thought about this. We're like, we're going to make a comic we freaking love.
This comic is for us.
It's for us. And if you like it, that's super cool too.
Oh,
oh my gosh. Congratulations, guys.
Have fun. That's awesome.
Yeah. Bruce and Stephanie were like my very first, I think, podcast appearance, and like
nice.
Resonant fans from issue like 1. And so they've been super supportive. It's really cool to find
they're awesome.
Yeah, a little community of people that like your stuff. It's you kind of create in a void, you know, and unless someone tweets about it and tags you in it, and you know, or someone reviews your comic, and that's a very small percentage of the people that are actually reading it. It's really nice to like not only have people like your stuff, but like understand what you're trying to do with it, and get the deeper meanings and stuff. So if you're out there and you like comics, tell the person who made that comic that you like it. We literally will never get tired of it.
Yeah.
Because we don't hear it. You know, our significant others are like, "Oh, you made a comic? That's nice."
Yeah.
Is it
nice,
good?
honey.
Yeah. Did you sell it to Marvel yet? Is it going to be on TV?
Right. Is it going to be part of the MCU?
Right. So, you know, us poor little indie guys, we thrive on your love. So give us your love, please.
Yeah. Any way possible.
Yes.
And if you hated it, no. No. But I mean, I have seen that, you know, there are people kind of toxically bash things, and it's not even constructive. So that I'm like, just keep that to yourself.
Right. Yeah. If you have legitimate, like, you know, reasons why you didn't like something, if it's literary criticism, which I think is kind of a lost art, and I think comic books should be held to a literary critical kind of review and analysis, I think that's totally appropriate. Like, you know, this character's voice isn't consistent, or you know, the plot didn't really make sense, so there was the holes in it. That's totally fine. But if you're like, this is garbage, it's stupid, I hate when girls are in comic books. What?
Right.
You know,
it doesn't make sense that this guy's brother is a ghost that's attached to him.
Yeah.
That can't happen.
Yeah. You know, you're reading a make-believe story in a comic book. That part doesn't have to make sense. Right.
Those are the things I like. I look at it and I'm just like, why are you reading comics?
Right. Yeah.
And like Dynamite here, hate buying. Yeah. Why did they do it? Why?
Yeah. And a lot of people, then I'm making some assumptions there. I think a lot of people hate buy Marvel comics and DC comics because that's what they've always bought, and they're like they're waiting for it to get good, or they're like I've bought, you know, it for the last 5 years. I got to keep going, you know. And there's
every Spider-Man issue ever. I need to keep buying it.
And there's poor little indie comics just begging for 1 or 2 more purchases. You know, you make such a big difference if you buy an indie comic versus a Marvel comic or a DC comic. We like live and die on those sales, you know.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Back in Dead Blood.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Buddy's lettering is really good. I've seen it in a lot of different comics.
Yeah, me too. And
so shout out to Buddy.
Shout out to Buddy. I'm always making stuff, so I always have an eye out for letters and colorists and things like that.
Yeah, every part of the team is, you know, so important to get what it is.
100%. And especially, you know, if you look back on, I always bring up Jason Wordie because he transformed the pages of Resonant into something like gorgeous. And maybe it's my bias from it being my first experience with a colored comic, but when I see the lines and then I see what he did,
yeah,
ridiculous. And like he added so much texture and depth to everything. I mean, look at that sky. That sky is all wordy. That's a blank
right,
piece of paper.
yeah,
From the road up, basically. Ollie might have put a couple lines in there, but that's all Jason. That's color art.
yeah,
That's not coloring. He's not
right, right. It's not like there were lines for the clouds in there.
right.
Just like do what you want over here.
Right, and he did. And so, like, I literally, when that exact page came in, I cried because I'm like, okay, this is something beautiful. Like, I don't have to worry about that part of this comic ever. I got to worry about my part being good, but the art and the color and the lettering from like Darren Bennett and World Design, I don't have to sweat about that because every single thing that came in on that comic was perfect on their end. Now, hopefully my part held up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But their part was perfect. I think every person on that team should have won an Eisner that year for if someone actually sat down and looked at that book and saw what they created. I thought it was just spectacular.
Yeah, no, it was a great team there, and of course, I haven't said it yet, but congrats on everything that's going on with Resonant.
Yeah, it's always fingers crossed until it actually shows up onto your television.
Right. The first step. Congrats on the first step.
We're actually maybe 3 steps.
Okay.
Like there's actually some steps being taken.
Good.
This looming writer strike has me very, very, very nervous. But
you're like, well, it's already written,
I don't know, I can't say, but we may be at a point where that doesn't matter, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Hopefully that doesn't, put it on a back burner.
Right.
At least if that strike happens and everything pauses, it's still like in that queue to pop up next in production.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's an awesome story, and if anyone hasn't checked it out right now, it's on sale on Amazon, right?
I checked this morning. I think it was still the first volume was $8.
$8 for amazing volume 1 of Resonant.
Yeah,
can't go wrong.
Right, and like I said, even if you don't like the story, you're getting quality art, coloring, and lettering. You're getting 3/4 of a perfect comic, and then you get me. So as long as I'm like mediocre, it's gonna be good.
And you got 50% off the cost. So if only a quarter of it isn't loved, then you're coming out on top.
You're still making money. You're making money on this deal.
Writing also fantastic though in that. So no worries there. You're getting 100% a good comic. So that was your first one at Vault, and then End After End released first between. I feel like they were very close. End After End and Nightfall.
They were very close because we had a bunch of pandemic stuff that delayed End After End kind of over and over and over again. So End After End, I think, got delayed up to about a year. So yeah, they shouldn't have been that close together, but
life happens.
It all works out.
So I love this. I love everything that's going on here. What is the quick and dirty of End After End?
Yeah, End After End is the story of our main character there, Walt, who in the first page of the first issue dies in the real world. He gets hit by a BART train here in the Northern California Bay Area, and shows up instead of in some kind of normal afterlife. He falls into this fairy world that is in the middle of a giant D-Day type invasion. So it's basically like he's falling, right in the middle of the charge up the beach of Normandy, and he's handed a sword and shield and said, "The bad guys are that way. Go fight." And he doesn't have any special skills. He has no idea what's going on, and so we really learn. The idea is the reader learns with Walt kind of the idea of this world, and we're kind of taking that chosen one or savior story that happens a lot in fantasy and not really letting him ever be good at it. He's never going to have like a montage by the fire where he's practicing his sword, and now all of a sudden he's the best swordsman in the land.
Yeah, he's
You know,
just making it day to day.
he's just making it, and so it kind of gives him a second chance to be his best self. And it, for Tim and I, we really wanted to mirror the artistic struggle, of like trying to create a comic that everyone's going to read and everyone's going to love, and you're going to be a big name and everyone's going to like say, oh my God, that's the best And then the reality of like, well, you're just kind of making indie comics that some people like and most people don't ever read. And that's a hard pill to swallow. I don't think people like have dreams about being the 500th best writer in the comic world. It's like I really hope I can be a third string soccer player on my local municipal team. It's like you want to be good. You want to be and maybe you even sometimes dream about being the best. And so it is kind of Walt's struggle with this, as he was an artist but never really got the recognition or praise or accolades that he wanted in the real world. And now he's in this fantasy world where he's also not great at anything. And he's just got to figure out a way to find his place in the world and maybe be happy with where he's at. And so that's kind of Walt's struggle in the end after end. And then we put a bunch of monsters and fights and our fun little mentor, Grink, who may not be very helpful at all.
Hey, he's got some good advice now and again, right?
Sometimes he has a broken clock is wrong twice a day, right?
Yeah, he sometimes repeats he's like the third time he's repeated rule.
But it was funny because Adrian's like, I think you guys used lesson 6 already. I'm like, yeah, we did, and we're gonna use it one more time.
He's got to learn lesson 6.
Yeah, lesson 6 is different every time because Grink's just making this shit up as he goes. Yeah. So
that's the fun of it.
Yeah, and that was kind of one thing that developed as we were developing this series was like you get these mentors who are perfect, right? Who never give bad advice and are always making the right decision, even if it doesn't seem like the right decision at the time. And and then you realize later, oh my God, he was telling me what I needed to know at that time. No, Grink's just a dude punching a clock at the beginning of this the series. He's seen these guys come and go before. Every human that appears in the end after end gets a no mentor, and it's like, okay, they kind of teach you stuff and then they go away and get the next human that shows up. So he's kind of representing kind of the burned out part of us, where we're like, man, we're doing the same thing over and over again and not really getting anything out of it. And he's learning that because he wasn't putting anything into it, he wasn't getting anything out of it. And so now as he, where we're at in the series now is he has started to care more about Walt and really try to, help him. He's learning that through that he's becoming a better person, and this means more to him, and his job now means more to him than it did before. So it was fun to have a mentor who learns almost as much as the mentee.
Right. I mean, he definitely, like you said, he's punching the clock. He's like, I can't carry. And then at the end, I think it was the end of issue 1. He's like, wait, you're still here. Like, you've made it this far. All right, well.
Yeah. Well, and in the beginning of issue 2, he actually introduces himself for the first time.
Yeah.
Right. Because like, I'm not going to introduce myself to this guy. He's not going to last.
You don't need to know my name.
Don't need to know my name. Yeah. You're going to be dead in a couple of seconds. And so he's like, oh, you're still alive? Okay. So it kind of showed like his commitment to his job at that point. Yeah.
He's definitely feeling the burnout.
Yes.
With, like you said earlier, you and Tim like to put, personal things into it and story and inspiration. Is this pulling from some life burnout, comic creating burnout, or
I mean, definitely
things you've seen around?
I mean, definitely Tim pulled a lot from his corporate life before He went over to Vault, where he was, a minion punching a clock, basically.
Yeah.
And so, and then also that struggle of trying to get something made, get something successful, getting, you don't, as a creator, I don't get to decide if something's good or not, right? I can only make it. And then I have to give it to other people, and other people have to tell me if it's good.
Yeah.
Right. I can't say, oh yeah, Resonant's a great book. Of course I'm going to say that I tried to make it a great book.
Yeah,
but I don't actually
thing ever.
Yeah, if nobody likes it and everybody hates it, it's not a great book, as much as I try to say it. So it's a very strange place to be, where there's no quantitative, objective stuff other than like sales and things like that. It's not like shooting a basketball where either it goes in or doesn't go in, I'm successful or unsuccessful.
Yeah, I mean, I'd even say the qualitative side of things there, the quantitative with sales is not always a good estimate either, because people might not have gotten to hear about it, and that is why it didn't sell. And
I mean,
at the time out on an amazing book.
Yeah, at the time it came out, Vault wasn't even in every comic shop. Vault is still not in every comic shop.
Yeah.
So I meet people. It's kind of disheartening, I meet people in the industry who own comic book shops who have never heard of my comics. I'm down at WonderCon and talking to comic shop owners, like, oh yeah, what's that? I'm like, great, never mind. And it's so hard to break through that big 2 or big 3 if you count in Image.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get some attention. So that's why I appreciate like podcasts like this and people that actually try to elevate the awareness, at least, of indie comics. Because again, like, if our sales go up 2%, that's massive. That can keep a series going. You may have 5 more issues of Resonant if it was, if sales were better.
Yeah, I mean, I know just from comments that have been left on some of my videos, people do actually go pick up some of the books that I talk about. So I mean, I know I'm not at least just shouting into a void, which is it's nice to hear that feedback. Like you said with comic creating,
right? I'm writing and throwing papers into a void,
right?
And they come back illustrated. I'm like, that was cool. Someone gonna look at this? Is anybody gonna watch this?
Right. Sometimes I'm recording a video. I'm like, I just talked to my phone for 10, 15 minutes. I don't. And I actually literally talked to my phone for 15 minutes one time, and I went around to like pull up the video and check, make sure everything worked. It didn't record a single thing. I was like, oh, this is it. I just talked to myself. All right, we are here.
Back to like where I came from, like in the comics, I came from hand selling issues of like Walking Dead to people. And so I have no problem. I will sell my comics to every single person individually, one at a time, if I have to, as long as I get to keep making comics.
I will knock on your door.
I will. I'm going door to door
and tell you all about it.
So, I mean, I've sat at conventions, here in Sacramento, and sold 2 comics and considered that a good day, because that was 2 people that hadn't read my comic before, and whatever it takes for me to build like a readership, and hopefully people like what I do, and then keep picking up the next thing and next thing and next thing,
Well, yeah, I think that's it right there, is that if people start reading it now, they'll look for more. And like I jumped on your stories with End After End, and then Nightfall Double Feature, and then I was like, well, what else?
Yeah.
And now I'm going back to Resonant.
Yeah, and that's I think, we write to trades as well. You write to the individual issues, but you also write to trades now. You have to think that way, because that's what lives forever. And that's hopefully how people will discover me, further down the road. It's like just exactly what you did. Saw a comic that they thought looked cool, pick that up, say, wow, I like that. Let me go back and see what else this person has done.
Yeah,
I've done that with like Brian K. Vaughan. I was out of comics for so long, I missed a lot of really good comics. So once I find something like Saga,
speaking of, I just got this for my birthday from my friend, and I haven't even pulled it out of the plastic, but
it's amazing.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really terrific. I did the same thing. I went back and I bought, all of Brian K. Vaughan's previous series. I'm like, because I missed him when he was coming up through, like, when he did some Marvel books and then did all his indie stuff,
Yeah. I think the first book from him I picked up was Paper Girls.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that was before I was fully like what I do now and like really looking through things and fully reading indie books. And I was just like, yeah, this looks good, and pulled it from my old first comic shop that I went through, and fell off of like reading things for maybe like a couple months. So then when I came back, I didn't continue it. And then I'm like, what was I doing? Like, that was an amazing series. I went back and read it a different way.
Yeah.
But I still have those books from when I started it at the very beginning. And I met Brian K. Vaughan at Baltimore Comic Con 2021 and had him do a little remark on it. It's this stick figure paper girl on a bicycle, and it's hilarious. It's so bad, but it's great.
That's cool.
So that's like one of those cool little things. It was one of the earlier indie series that I read, I think, because just like you, like there was the bigger name things that brought me into reading, but it's all the indie stuff that keeps me here.
Yeah, I mean, I very rarely read, DC. I read a little bit of Marvel, but I'm 90% indie. Image or smaller publishers.
Yeah, it's a couple characters that I'm like, okay, there's a Groot book coming up, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna read the Groot miniseries.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, but not everything Spider-Man. Like
so hard.
It's like I'm reading Dan Slott's Spider-Man right now, but not the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever. I like the Spider-Verse stuff.
Yeah, I was really liking X-Men when it was 2 titles. When it was the Hickman did the reboot, and it's like, Powers of X, and whatever the other X.
House of X.
House of X. I'm like, or House of 10, or whatever. One of them's 10. One of them.
Powers of 10, maybe.
I think it's Powers of 10.
I always called them both X.
Everyone
was
does.
Wrong.
Yeah. And I was like, this is great. This is how X-Men should be. And then now it's like 20 titles a month. I'm like, I can't
entire
keep up.
Pool list has to be X-Men in order to keep up with X-Men.
And I think Marvel and DC, they're not dumb. They know if they put out this many books, you're going to kill this many other smaller books. That's just the way it goes. There's only so much room on shelves, and there's only so much money in people's accounts. And so, you kill some smaller books and you get more people buying Sabretooth. So
yeah, I think that's the thing right there, though, is even just the space on the shelf.
Right.
My shop just literally said that today.
Yeah.
And like they love indie comics at the shop, but they know they only have so much space, and the people who come to the shop only want so many indie comics, and they want the rest to be X-Men and Spider-Man and
you have to cater.
Pagosh.
You have to cater to what your clientele is. It's almost like the comic shop has to train the people that are coming to shop there what else they can buy. And you get some really good shop owners and shop employees that do that and say, hey, you like this, you're going to like this, and start pushing those indie books. Because it's really, just walk in to a comic shop and look, and there's 300 titles a month. So, my one title, how much attention is my one title going to get? That's sitting there smashed between, 16 Avenger books and 14 Batman books, and it's
the one thing I know with my shop, at least, usually if I order an indie title, they're at least ordering one other copy.
Yeah,
they're like, well, we're already ordering it, we should get one extra just in case.
I think most shops will do that. So that's why pull lists and pre-orders are so important. Like, if you like comics, and just open a pull list someplace and pre-order comics, because that shop will then buy more of that book.
Yeah, that's always, if you love everything that's being created here, go tell your shop, tell them to pull books for you, don't wait till you go to the shop and it's not there because you can't get it.
Right. And I understand trade waiting too. I do the same thing for some books because space and but again, try to order that trade through your comic shop, get them.
Yeah.
Because that's still where most of the comic buyers are going to be. They're going to be in that shop. And so if they see that extra book, they're like, oh, that looks cool. Let me pick that up.
And they only have so much space for the trade paperbacks as well. So they won't order it if there's not a stated interest.
Yep.
And I think that's the thing that confuses people more. Like they get the single issues that, they're not going to order all the single issues, but they're like, well, it's a trade. They'll order it.
Yeah, but if the single issues didn't sell,
right?
Why would they buy a trade?
Right. And it's like, even Image things, it's not a guarantee that they're going to stock it.
Yeah, and there's so many books out a month. Like every month, there's an Image book that I'm like, what's that? I've not heard of that. Like, I go to comic shops. I have 2 different comic shops that I have pull lists at. I'm like, I try to patronize like as many comic shops as I can. Like if I walk into a comic shop, I'm buying something. And there's 2 that are kind of relatively close to me, and both the owners have been super supportive of my career. So I'm like, I'm buying stuff from both of you guys.
Yeah.
And I can't remember my point.
Pre-order your books.
Pre-order your damn books.
That is the moral of the story. we got a couple minutes left. Talk about Nightfall Double Feature.
Oh yeah.
3/4 of the way through, we said.
Yeah, one more issue to go. Our big grand finale. Tons of emotional payoff in this. I've cried every time I've worked on the issue 4 script. Tim has cried every time he's worked on the issue 4 script. So hopefully we put enough emotion in there to get through the page a little bit to you guys. So yeah, really love that book.
I know you said you guys had the idea to kind of flip flop creative teams there, but what made you want to do it as a double feature and create this cool like throwback kind of comic?
Yeah, that was all Tim's idea. I mean, Tim is like the creative genius behind most things.
He does a lot of really cool design things.
Very cool designs, and he designs all the books. And that guy's, I say that Tim's imagination is like a machine gun. Like he's just firing ideas, and you're like, and my job is to kind of sift through them and go that one. So he'll shoot 20 ideas at me.
This is Tim's mind right here.
Yes, that's Tim's mind is batshit crazy. Okay, so I'll give you a small example. We had an opportunity to pitch to a certain property, and they wanted 3 ideas. Okay, and they were shorts. They were like, less than 12 pages. So it was a self-contained little short story. Okay. And I came up with one idea, and I'm like, Tim, I'm stuck. I got one idea. He's like, okay, I got 10. I'm like, okay.
I'm stuck. I only have 10.
Yeah, I can come up with more if I need to. So 10 that were fully kind of written out and thought about. And I'm like, oh, great. This is easy for me. I'll take that one, and we'll take that one.
Love it.
So, yeah. So Tim really wanted to do this kind of like, it feel like you're going to an old drive-in, you're watching 2 horror movies, and they don't have to be related. It's not like a part 1 and a part 2. It's just 2 great horror movies that you're going to sit through and watch both of them. And I think he wants to do this kind of as a seasonal Nightfall thing. So yeah, the intermission.
I love that page. I'm like, yep. All right, intermission. I'll take a little break. Come back to the second part.
And it's like an $8 book, which is, most comics are $5 now, but you're getting 60 pages of comics, which is almost 3 full issues. And the covers have been amazing, and the art from both teams is just phenomenal. So you really get a lot of bang for your buck in there, and that's kind of what he wanted. He wanted to give the reader a lot for the money, and have that feel of like, watching two scary movies back to back.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the way it came out, because like you said, even with the cost, it's cheaper than if these were releasing separately.
Right. Yeah.
And there's something different about each of them that I think is going to draw somebody in to at least pick it up.
Yep.
And then you're going to love them both, because it's real good horror on both sides.
Yeah, and I think there's enough difference in the stories that you're not getting the same thing twice, right? It's not, oh, this is a slasher and this is a different kind of slasher, or you get kind of ours is like a supernatural possession type story, and theirs is like the Dead Rise kind of a story,
and bones just everywhere.
Bones appearing everywhere. And giant bone creatures.
Oh my God.
It's crazy. Yeah, that's a giant bone spider.
What is he doing? What is Daniel Kraus doing here?
And Monhouse, who does the art, is just like, oh my gosh, nuts.
Yeah. His art is so good. I'd first seen his art on it was a cover for David Propose's The OZ they did on Kickstarter. And every time I see his art now, since then, I'm just like, yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But
I like art. I like art that looks different and that has tons of energy.
Yeah.
That's like right up his house. Yeah, and I get to work with Chris Sheehan, who's like
just
the freaking
amazing.
Best.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like you said, the autumnal is the team that you were flip-flopping with, and just so good. Such a good slow burn horror.
Yeah, ridiculous. And Chris is just getting better. He's still, I think, a baby in his career, and a couple of years, and I won't be able to afford him anymore. So, but
you've got the relationship established, so you're you're in the door.
Yeah, and there's something about Chris, and I think it's because he cares so much about the material.
Yeah.
And he reads the script so carefully that I don't think Tim or I have given him a single note on the art. Like, he didn't miss anything that was subtly supposed to be there. He didn't miss anything that was obviously supposed to be there. He's getting all the emotion on the faces. He's getting all the storytelling that we need. I mean, it's really like I'm really lucky to work with somebody that like really cares so much about the product, and it's not just like, hey, I'm just going to bang out these pages. He really, I never have I ever changed anything that he's put on the page or wanted to change. I'm like, it's perfect. Nobody touch it.
Don't breathe on it.
Yeah, just Jason.
We're not even putting words on this. We're just frame it. It's done.
Totally. Yeah.
No, that won't change. If he's seen any of your stuff, he'll know he'll know what the interview is going to be like, and he'll have a fun time.
Yeah, he's a very, very nice guy.
Yeah, everything I've seen on like Twitter interactions, it's always like he cares about everything that's going on, and I love that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to keep you all night. So where can people follow you and see what you've got going on?
I mean, I guess until Twitter burns down, find me on Twitter at DB Andry. That is where I'm the most active, and I will respond the most. It's the same handle everywhere, like Instagram. But Instagram is mostly pictures of my dog who's tip-tapping around my feet right now, and
those are always good.
Yeah. the model for Fern from Resonant. That's right. She is my actual dog, still kicking down here. I'll be on. I don't really do much more as far as social media. I don't really do Facebook as much, so don't find me there. But Instagram or Twitter is number one. My DMs are always open unless you're a jerk, and then get the heck out.
Right. We know what part of Twitter is the jerks.
That's right. I love my block button.
Yes. I've found it more and more useful nowadays.
Yeah.
makes Twitter more peaceful when you hit.
Yeah, I always have a good. I mean, I've like Blake, who was just on, I think probably found me on Twitter, and
Yeah.
you know, I love coming on shows and talking to people, and like I said, I'll sell one comic at a time if I have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of selling one comic at a time, go buy Dead Blood.
Yeah, go back Dead Blood. You got a couple more. You got, I think, 2 more weeks.
Yep.
Christopher just added 2 original art tiers. They are going to be original art, not pages from the book, because I would buy those, but commissions of the characters of Dead Blood probably is what he'll be doing. And we had 2 tiers to start, and those went immediately. Yeah. So he just opened up 2 more tiers.
Nobody's jumped on them yet.
I don't know if anyone's jumped on them yet, but they're So
2 of 4 left now.
Yeah, you get all the books. You get and you get a 9x12 commission. So you get the standard cover, the foil cover, and you get the Adam Cahoon variant.
And a 9x12 commission.
And a 9x12 commission. Yeah, he's killing himself for this book. But yeah, so go grab those before they go away.
Yeah, that's an insanely good price for a 9x12.
I mean, $30. 40, I think $45 for just the books. So you're getting a commission for like $150. So yeah, that is not a bad deal.
If I hadn't already backed 1 million books this month, I would be jumping on that right now because that is so good.
Kickstarter has been cracked lately, man. I've been backing a ton of stuff.
I know everything's on there, but yeah, go back Dead Blood, check it out. It's fantastic. Go pick up End After End, Nightfall Double Feature, everything. Go read Resonant. Go get back issues. Tell your shop to pre-order your comics.
Yeah, the End After End first trade will be out in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
6 is in stores now, so you can get 6 through 10 as they come out. Our end is one of the first things that me and Tim came up with when we decided to do this. I've never come up with an ending before I came up with the beginning, and the ending came to us like first. And so really, really proud of this ending of End After End.
End After End ending came before the beginning.
The beginning of the end.
Yes. Beginning after end.
Yes. So yeah, and same Denizen will be ending shortly. And then there'll be a trade after that.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Had a blast talking about everything, and thanks to everyone who's been hanging out in the live chat. Buddy, Blake, Dynamite. I know Bruce and Stephanie are gone, but shout out to them anyways. And have a nice night, everybody.